better daily, where we work hard in our minds, bodies, and our spirits to become 1% better every single day. Download the app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.life to catch the video version of these podcasts. Here's your host and my dad, Alex Van Houten.
What's up, Betterment family? This is Alex Van Houten in Better Daily Live. Happy Tuesday. It is Nutrition Tip Tuesday, and today we are going to go through carbs. Get some. Get excited. I'm excited to talk about carbs and why you need to be eating some. Well, depending on what phase of training you're in. Good morning, Robin. Good to see you this morning, brother. So it is day 24 of the Faithful 40 Challenge. And if you have been in the Faithful 40 Challenge thus far, making your posts and sticking with your goals, then that means you've probably shined a light on your nutrition. And you've probably looked at your protein consumption, and you've looked at your fat consumption, and you looked at your carb consumption. And maybe you've tried to incorporate some of the things we've talked about here, trading out some of our higher sugar fruits for our lower glycemic index berries, or perhaps you've added some creatine to your life, or maybe you have increased your protein intake. There's a bunch of different ways that you might be improving your nutrition right now. And today I want to talk about carbohydrates. Now, in the past, I've told you that carbohydrates are not bad for you, that they do have a place in our diets, specifically with regard to high intensity training. I never really elaborate on that much outside of explaining that I enjoy carrot cake on leg day. I'm going to elaborate on that a little bit today. But I've also said, hey, carbs aren't bad for you, but you got to earn them. That means that if we don't engage in the regular, difficult exercise that requires those short-term fuel stores, that's what a carbohydrate is. It's the short-term fast fuel that your body can use in order to accomplish something difficult. If we're not doing those things, then carbohydrates are going to not be a great add to our body. If we have to be more sedentary for some reason, or maybe our workouts are lower intensity right now, then carbohydrates aren't really a very helpful thing for us. Robin said, this morning I had 4 over-easy eggs with turkey sausage times 3. That is a very protein and fat heavy meal. No carbohydrates there. So I want to talk about Carbon Up, because I have heard a lot of things in the health and fitness world that demonize carbs to the point where people are trying to improve their bodies, especially through an exercise practice. They will also be going low carb, which is classified by a nutrition perspective as 100 grams or less carbs per day. That is low carb, quote unquote, 100 grams or less carbs per day. And so then they'll do their thing. They'll cut carbohydrates. They'll see some results. Oftentimes, the fast results you see when you cut carbohydrates is actually water weight, because for every 1 gram of carbohydrate we store in our muscles and in our livers, for every 1 gram of carbohydrate we store, we need about 4 grams of water. And so, when your muscles are nice and full of water and carbohydrates, they look a little bigger. And this is something that bodybuilders understand. They'll go flat, they say, quote unquote. They'll go flat when they cut carbohydrates in order to prepare for their bodybuilding competition, to lose as much body fat as possible. And then they try to consume some carbohydrates in small spurts or whatnot so that their muscles are full when they get on stage, right? Now, what does that mean for you? Well, when people reduce the amount of carbohydrates that they're eating, and then they pick up high intensity exercise. So let's say you've been conditioning, you've been doing some light cardiovascular exercise, maybe long form cardiovascular exercise, which your body could use some carbohydrates for, but it doesn't need them. It can use fat as a fuel source, because all of that breathing over that 3-hour span, or all that breathing over that 1-hour span provides lots of oxygen and fat, that slow burning fuel source. You got lots of fat on you, it's fine. I'm not saying you're fat. I'm just saying, even if you have a little bit of fat on you, there's a whole bunch of energy stored up in that. So your body doesn't need many carbohydrates to do that. Or you're lifting weights, you're doing lightweight, higher repetitions, slow movements, right? Your body's like, oh, okay, like we can do this with very little carbohydrates on us. But let's say you're eating relatively low carb and you change your workout program, heavier weights, less repetitions, more strength, more intensity, Maybe you change your cardiovascular exercise to be more high intensity. Maybe you start sprinting hills, or maybe if you are riding a bike, you do some trail riding up some difficult stuff that really that spot where you lose your breath and you're having a really hard time breathing. That is moderate to high intensity exercise. And in these moments, your body needs carbohydrates. Now, your body can cope. Okay. If you're eating a relatively low carb diet and you try to do high intensity things, your body can cope. There's a process called gluconeogenesis, which means that your body's like, hey, we need carbs around here. And your body's like, don't worry, we can make some. And so what your body does is it uses different molecules in order to synthesize glucose so that you have some short-term fuel stores on hand. The problem with this is this process is very slow compared to if you just had carbs available. Like if you had oatmeal this morning, and so oatmeal is breaking down in your system, giving you a nice steady drip feed of carbohydrates. Your muscles are full of glycogen, which is the stored form of carbohydrate, and your body is supplying carbohydrates via digestion. And then you go do something high intensity. Well, you have all the carbs you need. They're there, they're available, they're ready for your fast twitch muscle fibers to use them up and do something high intensity. But if you're relying on gluconeogenesis for your carbohydrates, that's a real spotty, slow process. It doesn't happen very fast. It can't recharge your carbohydrates very fast. And so what that means is during your high intensity exercise, some of your muscles might have everything they need and some of them might not. And that leads to injury. So I don't know if you know this, but in the NFL, for instance, the reason Gatorade is so popular and prominent among NFL players is because keeping their carbohydrate intakes high and their glycogen stores full during these high intensity practices and high intensity games, that actually reduces their injury rate. NFL football players, when their glycogen, when the carbohydrates in their muscles go away, they're depleted, they're not getting refilled. When those go away, they're at a much, much higher risk of injury during their high intensity workouts than if those carbohydrate stores were full. And I see this happen. I know you're not an NFL player. Well, you might be. If you are, hi, what's up? I'm Alex. Good to talk to you. But if you aren't an NFL football player, what that means is, well, you can still be prone to the same mechanism. You can still try to do something high intensity when your glycogen stores are empty and end up injured. I see this frequently in the exercise world because somebody will be trying to lose some fat and gain some muscle, which is a great goal. Have at it, do your thing. And they'll be running a little bit or lifting a little bit, and they'll be eating relatively low carbohydrate. And then they'll go, you know what? I really want to turn the dial. I want to turn up the heat on what I'm doing right now. I want to go hard. I want to work on my pull-up. I want to lift stronger. I want to run faster, And so they go to do that. But because they've been eating relatively low carb and seeing some decent results up until this point, they don't change their eating. They keep eating low carb while pushing themselves very hard from an exercise perspective. This is a mistake. You can't ask yourself to perform at an athletic level with strength, with agility, with power. These are all fast twitch muscle fiber abilities. You can't ask yourself to perform at those high levels while giving yourself slow fuel. So I want to encourage you today with some sports nutrition. If you are going through a bout of high intensity exercise, you wanted to turn up the heat, maybe there's some performance goals you'd like to achieve, maybe there's a race you're training for, maybe there's an event you'd like to dive into, and this is going to require some high intensity work from you. And I'm not saying that slow, steady state stuff, low intensity, high volume stuff, I'm not saying it's not hard. I'm saying you're fine with fats as a fuel source at the lower intensities. But when you start ramping up the intensity, you're going to need some carbs. You're going to need them. And you're not just earning them. It's not just in retrospect to help you with recovery. You're going to need to plan accordingly. So personally, I'm starting to train for an obstacle course race in October. And so my workouts are going to start getting more intense. I've been adding volume over the last couple weeks, making my workouts longer. And now they're going to start getting more intense. And I'm going to be asking my body to do things like agility ladders and jumping. And I'm going to be asking my body to handle heavy weights and to do so without muscle failure over 8 to 12 reps, And I'll be doing some drills that are going to require me to hold on to a bar and do some interesting things. And so I'm also aware that I need to make sure that I'm consuming enough carbohydrates prior to my workouts so that my glycogen stores are full. And I want to ask you to do the same thing. If you are ramping up the intensity of your workouts, please, 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 please give yourself some carbohydrates. 30 to 60 more grams in the day can make a big difference. But if your workouts are intense and they're an hour long, then you actually might need more than that. So everybody's body is a little different. If you have questions about this, please reach out. I'd be happy to help you navigate your individual needs there. But when it comes to increasing the intensity of your exercise, don't be scared of carbohydrates. Don't be scared of carbohydrates. Don't be scared of carbohydrates, because increasing your exercise intensity is not a time to be worrying about whether or not you're going to lose half a pound this week because you're eating low carb. Increasing your exercise intensity is a time to be investing in healthy metabolic tissue, good performance output, and excellent sports performance without injury. That's what that's about. And then you can, let's say you finish your sports training and you want to go back to your lower carbohydrate, lower intensity workouts, continue to work on the body fat thing. That's a great time to do that, and you won't get injured doing that way. Guys, this has been Alex Van Houten on Nutrition Tip Tuesday. Carbs, get some if you're training high performance. Tomorrow is Wednesday, and I'm really looking forward to bringing a story from our community to you to celebrate a win. Until next time, guys, it's just 1%. You got this.
Thank you for joining us for 1% Better today. Don't forget to subscribe for the podcast. Leave us a raving review to tell others how Better Daily has helped you in your journey. If you want more Better Daily, download our app and join our Betterment family at betterdaily.live. Use code POD to get 25% off your subscription. That's POD, all caps, to save 25% on your subscription. We all have a cross to carry. It's lighter when we do it together. Go to betterdaily.live today.